Good morning, class. So we are on our week 11. This will be our last topic for the midterm. So we will be discussing the supervising and regulating financial institutions and activities. So we will be explaining function no paano sa mag-supervise and paano sa gina-regulate ang financial institutions and activities. So, supervising and regulating financial institutions and activities. So, there is a Federal Reserve Act of 1913 na establish ni siya para sa Federal Reserve System para maka-provide sa to ang nation with a safer or even more flexible and more stable nga financial system. So, ang principal function ani class sa supervising and regulating financial institution and activities is to regulate and supervise different financial entities. So, it will perform this function, ang iyahang pag-regulate ug pag-supervise, through a regulation na ginatawag nato as microprudential and supervision pod sa mga bangko. Not 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 only the banks but also mga holding companies and mga different affiliates. And belong sa diri ang mga non-bank financial companies nga under sa Financial Stability Oversight Council or the FSOC nga naga-determine if if sulod ba siya sa subject for prudential nga standards. So, in addition, ang Federal Reserve nag-engage ni siya in a microprudential nga supervision and regulation that looks beyond the safety and soundness sa individual institutions para mag-promote og again stability of the financial system. So, first we have here the regulation versus sa supervision. Class, if we say regulation and supervision manggod, it is distinct but also complementary sa mga activities. So, ang regulation manggod, nani siya kauban nga pag-establish na og mga rules within which ang mga financial institution kay dapat mo operate. For example, ang pag-issue sa specific regulations and also sa guidelines in governing the formation, sa operations, and activities, also sa pag-acquisition sa mga sa mga different na mga financial institution. So, once kaning nga rules and regulation kay ma-establish na siya, ang supervision kay mosunod na which nag-involve og monitoring, pag-inspect, and even pag-examine sa mga financial institution. So, it will ensure that kana siya nga institution will comply with those rules and regulation na gibuhat and that it operates in a safe and sound na manner. Kamao man jud na siya ang iyahang ang pinaka tawag ani pinaka function sa Federal Reserve Act of 1913 ang maging flexible, maging safe and stable na kind of monetary financial system. And then we also have the entities the Federal Reserve oversees. So, by law manggod class, ang Federal Reserve kay responsable sila for supervising and also regulating certain segments of financial industry para ma-ensure nila nga ma-employ jud nila ang safe and sound nga mga business practices. And with that, they will comply with all the applicable na mga laws and regulation na gipangbuhat diri sa first topic na to na regulation versus supervision. Then we also have the bank holding companies. So, Under sa bank holding companies, we have the financial holding na companies. So, ang mga bangko manggod are mostly manggod owned by another company or even controlled by other company. So, mao ni siya to ang ginatawag na bank holding company or BHC. So, ang Federal Reserve has supervisory and regulatory nga authority for all nga bank holding companies, regardless kung subsidiary bank ba siya or state member siya nga bangko or state non-member nga bangko. It also have a supervisory authority over any non-bank na subsidiary sa mga sa bank holding company that is not functionally class regulated sa different nga federal or state regulator. For example, aning akong ginaingon, mga leasing na subsidiary. But class, with this kind of setup manggod na ay gibuhat ang Federal Reserve nga another act. Dili lang kadtong act na gibuhat in 1913. Nagkaroon og another act on 1999. Ginatawag ni siya as Gramm-Leach-Bliley na nagapermit sa mga sa mga bank holding company na nakamit sa mga certain criteria to become a financial holding companies. So, these entities these entities may own mga broker dealers engaged in securities underwriting and dealing, mga business entities na naga-engage in merchant banking, mga insurance underwriting, and insurance agency na mga activities. Then we also have the savings and loan holding companies. So kaning savings and loan holding companies, directly or indirectly control ni siya either sa isa ka savings association or another savings and loan holding companies. With that, ang Federal Savings Association nga under sa mga different federal charters kay na-supervise ni siya by the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency or the OCC, while ang state chartered savings associations are generally supervised siya by the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation or the FDIC. And besides sa pag-own nila og federal or state saving association, a savings manggod and loan na holding company class meets capital and management requirement. And also, kailangan nila mo elect to be treated as a financial holding company. So, first para masulod sila or isa sa mga requirement para makasulod sila as a holding company, first, dapat mo operate sila as own broker-dealer na nag-engage in securities underwriting and dealings. Panduha, dapat engage pod sila in merchant banking. And lastly, dapat nag-operate sila as their own insurance company. Then we also have state member banks. So, kaning Federal Reserve is the primary nga federal supervisor of state chartered banks that have chosen to join the Federal Reserve System. So, with that domestically operating na mga bangko, ang tawag ani nila kay mga state member na mga bangko, the Federal Reserve shares a supervisory o regulatory responsibility sad for the domestic banks along with their OCC and also sa ilahang FDIC sa federal level na perspective, no, with individual state banking department sa ilahang state level. So, ang primary federal supervisor manggod aning class state member banks kay ang mga domestic bank. It is generally determined by two key factors. No, first, kay whether ang bangko kay they will choose to operate under a federal or state charter. Panduha na sila freedom nga mo choose that they will be a governmental authority, that the state will grant them a permission para mo commence sa ilahang mga business operations. Then we also have the EDGE Act and Agreement Corporation. So kani siya nga act class. This is sa US na establish. Ang mga financial institution manggod na naga-carry out sa international banking and financial na operations, some of which the parent bank nila are not permitted to undertake under existing laws. So kani siya na mga corporation nga gina-examine annually may act as a holding companies, and that holding companies will provide international na banking services and mga finances sa mga industrial and financial projects abroad, among the other nga mga activities na pwede nila i-handle. And then we also have the financial market utilities. So kaning FMU manggod, ang mga financial institution kay naga-participate in payment, sa pag-clearance, and even sa settlement. Ang tawag ani class in short is PCS, payment, clearance, and settlement na mga activities. So it comprise of nation's financial infrastructure. So kani siya na mga infrastructure na kung ganaingon kay mo support ni siya og millions of financial transaction every day, and it will lead to many transactional elements like small value retail na payment system, parehas anang credit card o debit card na networks, and even large value na PCS system. Mao ni siya ang mga financial transaction nga central counterparties, mga foreign exchange settlement system, and even pwede sad ang large dollar funds nga pag-transfer, no, makakuha sila nga ni na kind of system. And then we also have the non-bank financial companies. Naan na po'y another act na nahitabo diri sa non-bank financial companies. Mo ni siya nga tawag na to na Dodd-Frank Act. So this act is assigned siya sa Federal Reserve for responsibility sa supervisor o sa naga-regulate sa sa Federal Reserve. So it will supervise and regulate mga certain non-bank financial companies nga ang FSOC class has determined that it should be subject for board supervision and prudential standards pursuant dito sa ilang gibuhat na act under sa section 113 sa Dodd-Frank Act. Then we also have the Federal Reserve's role in the supervision, no, of certain insurance holding companies. So ang Federal Reserve manggod class gi-assume nila ang responsibility as a consolidated na supervisor of certain insurance holding na mga companies. So with this, nabuo ang Dodd-Frank nga Act. So, in addition dito as sa non-bank financial companies no na gi-describe na ko kaganiha, it may have significant insurance activities manggod because of this kind of act. So, ang class, ang Federal Reserve under this, ang ilahang role kay dapat magiging responsable sila, no, for the consolidated na supervision of insurance holding companies nga ang mga savings and mga loan holding companies kay makipag-work out sa Federal Reserve. So while kaning mga activities of insurance company mo may have a difference, no, from the activities dun sa state members sa mga bangko and also sa mga BHCs, the Federal Reserve principal na supervisory objective manggod kay ang insurance holding companies nga ma-remain as protected good and also safe siya for the consolidated firm and their subsidiary nga depository institution. So, class, para ma-achieve ning safe and sound nga objective ni supervisory na Federal Reserve kay class, ang mga insurance holding companies dapat mo remain sila as protected and even not just the insurance company dapat ang maging feel safe sa environment, dapat pati ang mga subsidiary na depository institution kay mao man to ang murag lifeblood sa mga sa mga holding companies. So para ma-achieve nato ni siya class nga objective, ang Federal Reserve kay dapat makipag-coordinate sila sa mga ang supervisory with the state insurance ng mga regulators na naga-continue to have oversight of insurance legal na mga entities. So how the Federal Reserve supervises financial institution? So in overseeing class ang institution under its authority, ang Federal Reserve manggod kay magpangita sila og primary output para ma-promote ang ilahang safe and sound na function, as well as kung paunsa sila naga-comply sa mga applicable na laws and regulation para mag-govern nila ang ilahang activities. Then we also have the microprudential safety and soundness ng supervision. With the law and practice na ilahang ginabuhat class, ang Federal Reserve and other financial regulatory agencies have traditionally adhered to a microprudential nga approach to supervision. So in other words, ang mga regulator kay nakafocus na siya on paunsa nila ma-ensure ang health and soundness sa individual financial institution. Then we have the examination and inspection. So ang objective man gud aning examination kay first kay mag-provide ni siya og objective of evaluation sa mga bank soundness. Then panduha kay i-determine niya ang level of risk nga na-involve ana nga bank transactions and activities. Pangatlo kay maghatag og certain nga extent of the bank's compliance with banking laws and regulation. And lastly is mo evaluate sa advocacy of the bank's corporate governance and para ma-assess ang quality sa board of directors and management. And panglima dapat ma-identify po nila ang mga different area kung asa ang corrective action kay mo require para ma-strengthen ang mga bangko and also para ma-improve ang ilahang quality of performance. We also have the risk-focused approach for the consolidated na supervision. So, naay duwa ka goal aning risk-focused approach. First, kay dapat ma-identify nila ang greatest nga risk and unsa to muusbong pa na mga risk para ma-supervise ang institution. And panduha, dapat ma-assess nila ang ability sa isa ka institution's management para ma-measure o ma-monitor nila and even ma-control ang risk. So, overseeing the structure of the banking system. So, ang bank holding company formation and acquisition class, this is under sa BHC Act na atong gisgutan kaganiha. So, this is a firm nga nagapangita para mahimo siyang BHC, So, first thing na buhaton sa isa ka institution para mahimo siya as BHC, it must obtain approval pa sa Federal Reserve. So, ang act manggod, di ba kaganya, gidefine na to ang BHC as any company that directly or indirectly owns, control or has the power to vote 25% or more of any class of the voting shares sa isa ka bangko. Then we have the savings and loan holding company. So mao ni siya ang formation and acquisition nga part, no. So under sa HOLA class, this is new, HOLA or HOLA. This is a firm na nagapangita to become a saving and loan holding company that must first obtain approval pa Japon sa Federal Reserve. Ang HOLA manggod, it defines a saving and loan holding company as any company directly or indirectly controls a saving association or the control or that control any other company that is a saving and loan holding company. Then we also have the formation and activities of financial holding companies. So, as authorized, no, dito kaganya sa giisgutan po nato na isa ka act katong Bliley na ako ang gingon kaganiha. Ang Federal Reserve Board's class, ang ilahang buhaton na regulations, it will allow a BHC manggod or a foreign banking organization nga mahimong financial holding company, and also kay maka-engage sila og expansion of financial activities nila if ang company kay ma-meet nila ang mga certain capital, ang managerial ug other criteria for that regulation. Then we have the bank mergers. So this is another responsibility sa Federal Reserve para mo-act on proposed nga mga bank merger when the resulting institution would be a state member bank. So mo depende siya sa Federal Reserve if mag-merge ang BDO o ang Metro Bank, if unsa na ang magiging tawag sa merging nilang activity. And then we also have the Federal Reserve Act proposal. So ang mga member sa bangko may be required to seek Federal Reserve approval before sila maka-expand or materially modifying its operation domestically or internationally. So ang mga state members sa bangko class, they must obtain Federal Reserve approval para ma-establish ang domestic branches and all members banks, including National Bank. So, it must obtain, no, or dapat makakuha siya Federal Reserve approval para ma-establish niya iyang foreign branches. And lastly, is the changes in bank control. So, natay ginatawag na CIBCA. Again, CIBCA. So, it authorizes the Federal Bank Regulatory Agency para mo-act on proposal by a single person, which naga-include og individual or an entity, or even mga different person na naga-act sa concert para ma-acquire lang ang control or ang insured nga bangko. So, I think that is all for today's discussion, no? We have discussed the definition or the different function sa supervising and regulating financial institution and activities. So, we have panduha gitakil sad nato ang paunsa ang Federal Reserve supervises financial institution. And then lastly, kay na-discuss na to ang pag-oversee nila sa structure sa banking system sa Federal Reserve. So I think that is all for today. If you have questions and clarifications, do not hesitate to ask. Thank you and God bless everyone.